But we first tested Nixle in 2009, so we have quite a bit of experience in it. Started using it regularly in 2010. At this point in the county of Los Angeles, there are over 150,000 people that get Nixle text and email messages from all. There's probably 45 to 50 policing agencies in LA County using it, and only a few that are not. So that makes it pretty prolific in this region, but I know there's throughout the state of California, I think the numbers are upwards of 250,000 people that subscribe to Nixle. I know it's very big in New Jersey and many other parts of the country. It's free for police and fire to send text and email messages, and free for the public to receive. So we really like that, you know. Mike likes free and I'm Mike. So I am going to talk about several topics in the brief period of time we have. You can see on your screen, we'll start with crisis communications in the public. And comment first. One of the things we deal with in crisis is normally a non-crisis, you're talking to anywhere from 1 to 5 news media outlets at a time that are interested in a particular story. But when a crisis occurs, whether it's an earthquake, fire, flood, like a natural disaster, or a controversial officer-involved shooting, for example, you will get a massive influx in media requests. So we created a separate Nixle news media only channel, so to speak. So instead of going public with an announcement, such as a press conference or providing a booking photo that we didn't want to send to the whole world, we don't want everybody in the world showing up at a press conference, we created a separate Nixle text and email to reporters and news agencies only. The one that the LA Sheriff headquarters has now has over 1,000 reporters and news media outlets in it. And then there's a separate group just for entertainment media, the media that is particularly interested in just celebrity-related things. Now, most entities throughout the country don't have as huge of a media market, you know, especially internationally. But I do recommend putting together something, especially if you team up with some of your local agencies or entities, because regardless of who you are, whether you're police, fire, hospital, government, you face the potential of Justin Bieber getting in a car accident in your city, and now all of a sudden, whether you handled it from the medical response perspective, the police response perspective, or maybe somebody starts complaining about road conditions, so now the city's dragged into it, or somebody's taken to a hospital. I can tell you, just from the celebrity perspective alone, having dealt with this a long time in LA, that can really bury you. So the ability to have a separate channel that's specifically just this huge collection of all these news media contacts is a big help. I can answer more questions about that if you like. This particular segment has to do crisis communications with the public and media using Nixle. One of the things about Nixle that I really like, beyond the fact that the basic functionality is free, is this text capacity. During a crisis, the last system to go down, in other words, to stop working, is texting, and the first to start working is texting. So in a hurricane, for example, the computers in a hospital are going to stop working. You can't access, you have no power, you know, they'll put on generators and whatnot, and that'll get their lights on. That doesn't necessarily mean the internet's going to work, because that's going to go down too. But for technology reasons, the last thing to stop working is texting. But unlike a telephone, if you make a telephone call and it doesn't go through, it just doesn't go through. But if you send a text message and the system's down, more often than not, it sits and waits. And then once the systems start working again, the texts go through. So again, I see texting as an absolutely mandatory part of crisis communications. Email is great too, but even our user experience shows that people favor texting over email about 2 to 1. Generationally speaking, the email is a huge help for a lot of people that don't want to be on social media, especially. There is a considerable number of people who want nothing to do with Facebook and Twitter, although obviously the majority of the population do want it, there's a lot of people that want nothing to do with it. Some of them to just manage their lives, but they're good with texting. With email, one of the big pluses to email too is that when you send out your news release, you subscribe to that email yourself, and then you can forward that Nixle email internally to your entire organization. It's very clunky to do that with Facebook, Twitter, or text. So let's talk about increasing followers. It's always a very, very common question I get. Well, first of all, is you have to provide information people want. Nobody's going to subscribe to your system or encourage other people to subscribe to your information if you don't give them what they want. And the news media has been working on this, and marketing people spend billions of dollars every year trying to figure out what the public want. In our line of work, I can tell you that people want timely, quality, quantity information with images. And I cannot understate the images, the importance of images. And today people want video more than ever. But getting back to the timeliness, the time when you will grow your most followers is when you have the least amount of time to be sending messages. And I'll say that again, is when you're at your busiest and you do not have the time to do it, that's when you have information that is super valuable. It's during a crisis. You don't have to make a speech. You don't have to write some hour-long press release. Just give them a sentence, and it is amazing what that does to the growth of your followers. So I talked a moment ago about the public wanting text message, so let's skip through that. From my friends with the Fort Worth Police Officers Association, Anthony White, I really like something he said the other day, which is if you be negative, expect negative. So there's already plenty of information out there, so I encourage you to keep your message positive, or at the very least neutral. Don't be critical of anything you send out. No good will come of it, because there's all kinds of people sitting around waiting for a negative message so they can be negative back. And then you can lose control. So again, as I mentioned, fastest increase happens during an emergency. So you got to send it during the emergency. And you need to be ready before the crisis. And you're getting ready right now by attending this. Means that you want to learn more about how you can be ready. As a way, again, to expand your followers, this is at the bottom of all LA County Sheriff Nixle messages, is how to sign up to get more Nixle messages. And again, it was mentioned, Mitch mentioned you'll get a copy of this later on. So what does all this mean? You could just copy and paste it and just brand it with your organization. But why would you put how to sign up for Nixle at the bottom of a Nixle message? Because clearly they already have it. Well, the answer is because user experience is when you get an email from somebody that you thought's interesting or funny, you know, maybe somebody emails you a link to some funny video or texts you one. Your user experience is that you then copy that or forward that to another person. And so by putting how to sign up for Nixle at the bottom of it, you don't get feedback from that person. Well, and if you do, say, hey, how did you get that? How do you sign up for that? Your answer then, oh, is at the bottom of the message. So because after you've been subscribed to this for a while, you kind of forget about how you signed up in the first place. So an example of how during a crisis you can really, really grow your followers, which then helps you for the next crisis, is several years ago, we had a fire, those of you that know the Los Angeles area, at the 5 and the 14 freeways. So almost to Santa Clarita and the Antelope Valley, there was a major brush fire in Angeles Forest land that only directly affected about 100 people lived in that area, which LA County is 10 million people, so you can imagine how remote that area is if it only affected 100. And it was a brush fire that went on for 2 days. The reason why it was so important was because it was right along the freeway that is the primary access route for about 1 million people that live in the northernmost part of the county to be able to get to downtown to work. So we set up a short code, and those of you who aren't familiar with it, I'll explain in a minute. and this shortcode's not going to work right now, by the way, so if you do it, nothing's going to happen, where people could text Crown Fire to the number 888-777. And if you haven't seen these before, it's like a phone number. It's like texting a phone number, but you say, well, that's not enough digits. It won't work. Well, it really does work. It's called a shortcode. And I'm going to show you a shortcode when we talk about recruitment in a little bit. In fact, with Nixle, if you haven't seen this before, you can type in a zip code as a message, a 5-digit zip code, and you text it to the, for lack of a better term, phone number 888-777, and you will get Nixle messages from any police or fire that message from that zip code or about that zip code area. I do it all the time. I have punched in both on the website as well as individual with my phone most of the police and fire agencies in the state of California, which is a huge number. But it all comes in, because it's texted, it all comes in a very manageable single stream, and you get great ideas from other agencies about things to talk about and highlight. So that's another way to gain content that you could then share. And if you do, and you borrow somebody else's idea, courtesy says, at least shoot them an email and say thanks. You know, when you're all operating in government, you already got paid, so you don't have to worry about taking somebody else's content. You do need to massage it, or you can end up looking silly if you don't change the name of the agency and things like that. So getting back to this crisis incident, so we ended up during this fire, even though there was only 100 residents affected by the fire, over 5,000 additional people subscribed to our Nixle account in 2 days, specifically via that short code. So, and the reason why, again, is because that was the main traffic artery, main freeway path, the only one, from the North County to get downtown. So people were very interested in how it might affect traffic. But they get really mad, and you'll hear from them, if you tell them all to sign up for it, and then they do it and they don't get any messages. So that's pretty rude. And how did I get the word out about that? Well, we used our county-wide messaging system to alert people to the existence of it. And what the user experience is, they then forward that message to their family or friends that are not Nixle subscribers who live in that affected area. So our current subscribers are advertising it to our future subscribers. And I did an interview with KTLA 5 news media during this crisis. They wanted to interview me about the conditions and the evacuations. So while they had me on live, I commented about how they could subscribe to that short code, and that generated like 1,000 within an hour or two of that interview. The media typically is not good about advertising this existence, because the existence of our direct messaging, because that causes them not to be the only ones that are the news information source. So frankly, you can only get away with doing that on TV or radio, typically, if you do it live. As an example, that it's not just police or fire is increasingly using Nixle messaging, even, for example, the city of Malibu. They are sending out updates about Pacific Coast Highway, which is pretty much like Main Street USA, the only way in and out of Malibu in a timely manner. And, you know, it used to be, this has to do with expectations, it used to be that if people got on Pacific Coast Highway and got jammed up behind the latest collision, they would get mad at themselves for not having turned on their radio and listen to traffic reports before they left. Well, now they're mad at the sheriff's department or mad at the city for not sending a text message to their HIP telling them that it's blocked. And so the city of Malibu and a unified effort in that area, including county fire, county sheriff, and so on, have really done a much better job in notifying one another when there's a problem. And not only does LA County Sheriff Lost Hills Station send out messages, the city of Malibu, frankly, does a better job of sending out the Nixle traffic alerts than anybody does. Kudos to them. And it just shows how much a city can really influence the message sharing. Cross-marketing, I really like the ability of Nixle to be able to their obvious text and email, but to be able to auto-populate Twitter and Facebook is great during a crisis. I really like it. You can, in one message, you can click, 3-4 boxes and you're sending it out to all simultaneously. I really like it for a crisis. For a non-crisis, it's not as good. And the reason why is that when you have a photo attached, if you auto-populate to Twitter and Facebook from Nixle, because Twitter and Facebook, because of what they do, there's nothing Nixle can change, the picture isn't as attractive looking. And I noticed that it doesn't draw as many viewers, and it just isn't as attractive looking. And so I recommend using that auto-populate feature with these multiple systems, but only during crisis. Another thing you can do to grow your followers and awareness that you have Nixle is you can put a widget in your website. Now, obviously, if you have an antiquated website, that's not going to work. But if you have a relatively modern website, you can get that imported in there. You need to talk to your webmaster about doing it. So here's an example of a police agency, Pickaway County Sheriff's Office, that has it embedded in their website. I know that with this, then anytime your entity, your agency sends out a Nixle message, it automatically appears on the home page of your website, which is a good way to keep your website looking like it has fresh content, but only if you're sending messages. If your idea of sharing information is once a month, that's actually going to make you look worse. They also have the ability to embed this same kind of thing with Twitter and with Facebook. So in fact, if you go to the website poalac.org, that's POALAC.org, you see an embedded Twitter feed. That's the Peace Officers Association of LA County. It's just a widget, and it's a box to automatically populate. Again, you're raising awareness to people about the existence of your messaging. You can also send flyers home with the kids at school. It is a marketing or a company's dream come true to be able to do that, because it's in the interest of public safety. You can make a flyer up, work with the school, and send it home with them, advertising, the good old-fashioned paper way. Or the school may even have an email notification system, a non-emergent notification system. Many schools might even be using Everbridge, and we don't have time to get into Everbridge benefits, or at least I don't. So I just want to raise your awareness, and you might want to ask some questions about that yourself. Need a really interesting headline. So if you look at headlines that I've seen many times, is that you look at a headline that says press release, suspects arrested. It is not shocking to hear that the police have arrested someone. That is the most boring possible headline, and I see stuff like that on a regular basis. So instead, be more descriptive, and this is regardless of whether you're Nixling, tweeting, Facebooking, whatever. You need a headline that'll get people's attention, and you see one there where it's a descriptive headline. It draws people in. Marketing is not sales. Marketing is about drawing people in. So if somebody sees this, you've got several elements. I'll give you another example. You can clearly tell what it's about. We're not good enough as an occupation to be exciting enough to cause people with some hint message that they're going to open it. You need to be blunt, specific about what is this message about. Otherwise, they're not going to click on it. They're not going to share it with anybody. They're just going to ignore it because they have so many other choices for information. So let's talk about recruitment briefly, and a new thing that we came up with. If you're able to do this while you're listening in on this, take out your cell phone and text join LASD to the number 888-777. If you would, do that right now. If you're not able to do that, I'll just keep talking, but keep doing your phone. This is going to link you within 30 seconds. You'll be linked to all kinds of recruitment links from the LA County Sheriff's Department. There is no reason why everybody can't be doing this in the United States. I do know that the ability to have a dedicated name shortcode like that. There is an additional cost. That's not part of Nixle's free package. It is part of Nixle's free package that you can text and email and use that zip code capability, as we mentioned earlier. But this is special because you're using your name, so they have to program it and all that. So if you're interested in doing this, you need to talk to Nixle about that. I'm not the business guy. So this is what you see when you send join text message join LASD to 888-777. Again, just to make sure that I've made it clear, 888-777 goes where you normally would put a phone number that you're texting to, and then the message with no gaps is one word, join LASD. And what you get back when you do that is this intro that says, hey, you're linked to LA County Sheriff, and here's links to our recruitment website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So at this point, there's no more Nixle relevancy to this. What Nixle does, and this is how our applicants are today, is they're all on their phones. You're on your phone. Everywhere you go, you got your phone. They have their phone. And the younger people are even more connected with their phones. So they always have it on them. But we oftentimes, whether you're at a booth like at the county fair, or you just happen to meet somebody in your travels, you'd have to have a flyer, an index card, something on you that usually has a website and a phone number on it. That's pretty clunky, and it's a piece of paper, and I think Ben Franklin came up with that idea a couple hundred years ago when he had the newspaper and was handled this. So we needed to do something more advanced. So just about a month ago, we started doing this, came up with the idea, talked to Nixle about it, got it in place. We've got almost 1,000 people subscribed to this now, and here's how it works. Whether you're at the county fair having a one-on-one conversation, normally you would hand the person a piece of paper and they're talking to you, or it's so bright outside, you know, they can't really get into their phone to start looking up if you gave them a website, a Facebook page or something like that. So they take the piece of paper, put it in their pocket, and they may or may not do it later. Well, this is really, really easy to do. All they have to do is take out their phone, and socially, it's kind of normal to say, oh, you punch this in right now. And then they punch it in, and they can, in a few seconds, get access and links to whatever recruitment material you want to give them. So you could either leave it on the Nixle page that you created, or you could do what we did that originally, but then later on we changed it so that, yes, it's the Nixle shortcode, but instead of going to a Nixle link, it takes them directly to a sub-page on our recruitment site. Now, there is no way I can do justice to recruitment as a topic in just a few minutes here. I think if you go into that, when you do that shortcode and you go into that and you look at those links and the descriptions, and you see what we're doing with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you get all kinds of ideas that'll help you regarding recruitment. I can tell you that Instagram and Facebook are the most important elements of that, so I would look closely at those links. That's, of course, on top of a really good website. With using Nixle beyond that for recruitment, I do not recommend having a Nixle recruitment page other than for this purpose, because what you want to do is leverage your main account, whatever your biggest account is. So for LA County Sheriffs, there's over 100,000 people subscribing to the headquarters countywide page, plus dozens of patrol stations that have anywhere from 1,000 to 6,000 subscribers each. So if we're going to send out an announcement about a big testing event, we use a geographically specific send. If it's a really big event, we will Nixle it using our main account and send it out to 100,000+ people. If it's geographically specific, you know, it's like a smaller, ongoing, not that special testing event, then we send it out to the Nixle group that's specific to that area. And I know most agencies, it's one police station, one account. It's the same principle, you just send it to your subscribers. I would be careful though about how often you're sending those messages, because it really does bug people on email and text quite differently than on Twitter and Facebook. So just do it with caution. I wouldn't send that out multiple times. If you have a big recruitment event, you send it out at least a week in advance so people can plan ahead, and then send it again the day before as a reminder. And of course, I can answer more questions about this when we get to that point. I've just got a few more minutes, and then I need to turn it over to Jim, and then after that we'll do some Q&A. I've got lots of examples of specific tips, so I'll just give a few. One is it really bothers people if you oversell your advisory. So a community message is like a routine call for service. If you're telling people about an arrest you made, or about a good way to keep themselves safe in the event, preventing fires, things like that, that's a routine call, that's a community message. An advisory, you could reason that a person, an at-risk missing person in a specific relevant geographic area, that's an advisory. That's kind of like a priority call. Whereas if you're going to do the red alert, it really needs to be important. Sometimes people use the advisory level because they'll pick up more subscribers will see their message, but that also means that people who only signed up for urgent purposes are going to get annoyed. So I would proceed with caution on that. That's where I was saying about geographic specific messaging. Always double check what you sent. Always double check it before you send, and even double check it after you send it. There's a couple of words in particular that are, you know, normal words, but one letter difference, it becomes a curse word. So you always want to double check that. And even double check after you send. You can't take it back after you send it, but you can edit it so that people that are looking at it on text aren't getting this jumbled message. So I'll probably give one more example here. Hold on one second. I think I'll just want to point out that you can Google. One of the great things about Nixle, and Google keeps changing their algorithms, so it used to work even better, but it still works well. If you know some keywords, first of all, the name of your entity or agency, ours is abbreviated as LASD, and then Nixle, you can then add a keyword from prior messages you've sent, be able to pull up your old news release on the run and just do a copy, paste, and a minor edit. And for example, earthquake preparedness information. Oh, there was just another small quake. We'll pull up your old message this way, do a little editing, and you can send that out again pretty quickly. I think the last thing I'll comment about has to do with photos. Photos really are important. I mentioned it earlier, that you can get some logos and your badge or patch or something like that, or a light bar, any kind of image that'll go with your text and email message from Nixle. It has a huge impact on the user experience and what do they see, and that visual really draws them in. Remember, everybody's spoiled now because you've got smartphones and you get photos and videos and all that stuff. So you get some stock photos together. Chris Miller is a professional photographer who's a retired LA County Sheriff's deputy, and he's taken thousands of photos for us. So we have stock photos we can use. He's the photographer. Well, actually, he didn't take this picture, but he's done thousands of photos for us that we then have handy as stock photos. With that, I'm just looking at the time, and so I should probably turn it back over to Mitch or Jim, and then listen for questions later.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. That was great. I'm going to switch it over to you right now, Jim.
Great. Let me grab this. Hi, everyone. I just want to make sure I have this up and running. I want to make sure that you can see my slides in a full slideshow. If so, I'm just going to keep going. If not, Mitch, let me know if you don't see it that way. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Commander Mike Parker. That was great. Some really good tips and best practices for using Nixle as part of your overall communication suite, right? Because you, I'm sure, have a lot of tools in your arsenal, whether it's social media or reaching out to the traditional media, sort of ongoing direct text messaging and email services like Nixle. So I wanted to just give you a little bit of I'll take maybe 10 minutes of your time at most to give you a little nuts and bolts background, to elaborate maybe on a few of the things that Commander Parker was talking about in terms of how it works from a user interface for those on this call who are not familiar. And you know what, I'm being told that I'm not full screen. Let me see if I could change that. Bear with me, everyone, for one moment. Hey, Mitch, could you maybe reshare it with me so I can choose it full screen?
Sure.
Just 1 second, folks. Let me see here. Point, show this window. Okay, you know what? I'm going to just kind of plow ahead here, even though you may not be fully seeing it full screen. Let me see if this works. Okay, perfect. So a little extra background on Nixle. We've got about 9,000 agencies that use us, and by those agencies, I mean anything from law enforcement, you know, police, sheriff, public safety agencies like fire, to municipalities, town halls, city halls, even down to libraries and parks and recreation. And that's actually a pretty important note here, because while most folks think of Nixle as simply crisis communication, simply public safety, it really goes beyond that. It really is about engaging with your community. Commander Parker talked about growing your subscribers. Well, just to piggyback off of his point, you do that day to day. You do that with connecting with your residents when there isn't an emergency, so they know that there's an avenue of communication between you and them. So it could be community meetings, letting them know about neighborhood watch events and coordination, coffee with a cop, routine traffic information and detours. So you know that you're growing that user base, you're talking with your residents, and when it does come to a crisis, to an emergency, to information that you need to get right out to them right away, you know that they're listening, and you know that they can expect information from you. Getting a little bit more into the specifics of the system, for those of you who do use it, you are familiar that there are 5 ways for folks to sign up. I'm going to focus on number 2 and number 3, which is also what Mike mentioned in detail. But folks can go online and sign up at your website. If you put a widget up there, they can sign up at nixle.com. They can download an app. But really where the system shines, and really where most people do opt in to receive notifications, is by opting in through their mobile phone. And that happens through one of 2 ways. One is by texting their zip code, and one is by texting a customized keyword. Zip code opt-in. When you text a zip code to that short code that Commander Parker talked about, that 888-777, you are actually opting in for any public safety agency, any government agency that has jurisdiction over that zip code. So at a municipal level, at a county level, at a state level, one zip code can go a long way. And it really speaks to this network effect. So you might live in Monrovia, but you might work in the city of Los Angeles. So you can text as many zip codes as you want to 888-777 and create as many profiles as you want, depending on where you're interested in getting information about. So if you were to text, 91016, you're going to get things from Monrovia Fire, possibly Monrovia PD or City of Monrovia. You're also going to filter up to the county so that Commander Parker's team can reach you as well with their county level notifications that may impact your specific area. And that filters up as well to California Highway Patrol at a state level, which uses Nixle. So it's sort of that. I always give it an illustration of like those Russian nesting dolls, you know, where you kind of just keep pulling it out. One zip code goes a long way. And when Arcadia, for example, does a little promotional campaign and tells everyone to text their zip code to 888-777, not only do any of the municipal organizations in Arcadia get a boost from that, but the sheriff will get a boost from that. Highway Patrol will. If Mike's team does a promotional push to the county and says, hey, everyone join the county's notification system by texting your zip code. Well, if you're a municipality within that county and folks from your zip codes opt in, you're going to get a boost from that as well. So it's agencies helping each other and residents staying in the know both locally and countywide and statewide as well. The second mobile way of opting in, and again, this really speaks to what Commander Parker talked about with Join LASD or the Crown Fire, is by texting a keyword to 888-777. And this is less location-based and more interest-based. So if you're interested in a career in law enforcement and you want to receive notifications from Join LASD, you would do it that way. If you're heading down to a Memorial Day observance or a July 4th parade, or maybe you're going to the beach for Labor Day weekend and someone says, hey, text, you know, Labor Day to 888-777, or maybe you're in Tornado Alley and to get updates on an impending storm, text tornado. You can get people who are interested in a specific instance or event to opt in. It's great for out-of-towners. It's great for folks who don't live in your jurisdiction, but who come to your jurisdiction for information. We recently did an air show down in Bay County, Florida, where the Air Force Base told everyone to text GCS to 888-777, Gulf Coast Salute, so folks who weren't normally, you know, receiving notifications could receive notifications during that weekend-long air show that was happening down there. And then once they leave the area, they can opt out or maybe continue to receive notifications about that. So keyword and zip code notification is pretty key to how Nixle operates. And creating those keywords is pretty simple too. You just go into your system. I'll show you a live look at the system for folks who aren't familiar with it. But you go into it, you give it a name, you assign it a unique keyword that needs to be between 4 and 12 characters. Once you hit OK, then that keyword is active, it's live, anyone can text it to 888-777 and be part of that group. And as I gave the air show example, we're used all over the country, day by day, week by week, for small events to large gatherings. If you were in the DC area for the inauguration, you may have gotten a message to text INAUG 17 to 888-777. If you were down in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, you may have gotten the message to text Mardi Gras 17, which again is a great way to send out parade information, first aid tent locations, any sort of parking enforcement during that big Mardi Gras celebration. And it was really great because people were coming from out of town who would not have otherwise seen that information or known if they were looking for maybe a missing child who got separated from their family during the festivities. And we do some close tracking of a lot of events that use Nixle keywords, and time again we see the same results, that keyword notifications, and really for that matter, any sort of mobile opt-in, whether it's keyword or zip code, very much far outpaces more traditional opt-in methods, like sending someone to your website to sign up or fill out some information on a portal. So I always talk about opt-ins as a two-step process. Have someone text in a keyword to 888-777 and then create an automated opt-in message that says, thanks for opting in. please go to our website, include the link there to fill out your fuller profile. So you know, that's just kind of a way to get more opt-ins. We did something for the Rose Parade earlier this year too, where folks were told to text Rose Parade to 888-777, and we saw some great numbers from that. However it is that people opt in, whether it's online or whether it's from their phone, sending them the message is pretty simple. I mean, there's a one-page interface. I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. But here's a quick screenshot. You write a message, you choose who it goes to, you preview it, and you hit send. I'm going to switch over to my page here, although you're probably still seeing my PowerPoint. Let me see how I can actually share my page here. And Mitch, I might actually need your help again oh, here we go. Never mind, I think I've got it. Google Chrome. Okay, so you should be seeing my Nixle account. So when you log into your Nixle account, you're going to see an overview page of any recent activity, whether you've created groups, whether you sent out a message, if you have a plan that has anonymous tip reporting, if any tips have come in. When you go right over to the message center, you will see a pretty straightforward one-page interface where you choose one of those message types that Commander Parker talked about, be it community, be it advisory, or be it alert. Message priority levels serve two purposes. Number one, they are a visual cue about how critical the message is. And number two, they also dictate to a certain extent how the message goes out. Community messages by default go to emails. Advisory and alert by default will go to text and email. And it also depends on the end user's settings, how they've gone in and customized it. But once all you do is really select the message type a message. We'll just say avoid third and market. You can also at the same time send an email, and you can write up to 20,000 characters. I'll write that in here, up to 20,000 characters. You can attach pictures, you can do some rich text, you can embed YouTube videos into your web message. Once you write your text and or email and attach pictures or choose not to, I won't go through every single step because it does a lot more than I'm going to go over now, but just to show you how quickly you can get a message out, type your message, choose which of your groups is going to get your message. It could be one, it could be all, it could be some. We operate on the idea of public and private groups. Private groups are for your eyes only. It's usually your internal staff. Public groups, a message sent to a public group does create a web viewable message, so you don't want to send anything that's meant just for, you know, your overnight crew. But if you wanted to send a message and let's say, hey, it's going to go to a group called Nixle Public Alerts, you choose that. You can actually pinpoint on a map if you want to get a little more specific on who your message is going out to, so you can send it to all your subscribers in that group, or you can say, hey, within that group, I just want to hit people who are within the zip codes of this triangle that I just drew, or multiple polygons. You can also save the area and refer to it later and bring it up. So you can say, I want to hit everybody in that public group I created. They opted in via keyword. They've also provided their zip code, either because they opted in via zip code or because I've requested their zip code as a follow-up confirmation message. Now I can target them a little more specifically. You can send the message now or schedule for future delivery. Setting an expiration date just means that your public message will disappear from the web within however much time that you set it, but it defaults to 24 hours, but you can say, hey, this event's happening in a week, so I want it to disappear in 10 days when it's done. One click send to Twitter and Facebook, then you just preview your message and send. When you send your message, you are now hitting text, you are hitting email, and you're putting that message up on the web, and you're also sharing it with your Facebook and Twitter followers. All one page, all one message, going out to many sources. And you can also do that, if not online, then you can do that. I'm just going to share my main screen now. You can do that through the app as well. So if you download the Engagebridge app, as we call it, you can, if you haven't done so, I would definitely recommend you do that. You can basically take the online interface and carry it around with you and send it to that. I'm going to talk about two more things quickly, and then we can turn it over to any sort of questions you may have for Commander Parker or myself. One of my personal sort of what I think is one of the more exciting partnerships that Nixle has is with Google Public Alerts. And what basically happens is any red level alert message that you send out, if you recall, we just talked about the green level community, the yellow level advisory, and the red level alert. Any red level alert message that you send out, your agency sends out, also gets sent to Google. And if it fulfills certain criteria that they're looking for, and it's usually anything that is a threat to safety and property, often weather related or perhaps a missing person, what happens is that notification not only will go out to your 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 or 100,000 subscribers, but it will appear at the top of Google search results, on Google Maps, and on the Google Now application that are on Android and Apple phones as well. So now it doesn't matter if you have 10 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, you now potentially have billions of eyeballs on your message. Here's an example of one that appeared at the top of Google Public Alerts when there was a severe weather warning in one county in Ohio. They sent out a Nixle notification along with going to residents. It went to Google. If someone went to Google and say, hey, I want to know more about this severe weather that's coming to town, and they go do a search, above all the normal search results that come back, your local radio and TV websites, Wikipedia, you're going to see your Nixle notification floating at the top of Google's homepage. They can click on it, get brought right to your full Nixle message. So you're cutting out the middleman. They're getting right to you. It's a wonderful partnership that we've worked with Google on. So hey, it's your opportunity to actually get up onto Google's homepage. The last partnership I'll talk about is with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Just like Google, we actually take our entire feed of notifications that go out, and millions go out every year, and we send them to NCMEC. What they do is they filter through them, and they do a keyword search looking for certain relevant hits like teenage, juvenile, missing, runaway, anything like that. There's dozens of keywords. When they get a hit, what they do is they log that as a case. They open a case. They basically follow their protocol where they will get in contact with the authoring agency, whoever it is who sent out that Nixle notification, and say, hey, we were just alerted to a missing child in your area. How can we help? How can we marshal our resources, because the first 24 hours are the most important to getting out there and getting this child returned safely to you. We've had a lot of great success with this NCMEC partnership, specifically a number of cases involving autistic children. All you have to do is send out a message. Doesn't matter if it's alert, advisory, or community. It'll get to NCMEC, and they will, do their thing. And we keep getting, and this is kind of what makes it worthwhile for us, for the Nixle team, for the Everbridge team. We often get great success cases. Again, missing children brought home, bad guys arrested, emergencies mitigated, basically using technology to keep people safe and informed. If you use Nixle, we hope you agree that it is an asset. If you're interested in finding out more about Nixle, we're happy to answer any questions and bring you aboard into the Nixle family. Mitch, that's all I have. I'm going to send it back over to you.
Awesome, thanks, Jim. Let me switch over real quick. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and answer any questions that were asked during the presentations. So we have a couple. We're going to try and get through them as quickly as we can. The first question is for you, Mike Parker. So we have questions. What are some examples of times you would use an alert message versus an advisory message?
So the best example of an alert, so to remember it, I always tell myself red alert. You know, that's a term we've heard before, red alert. Those are really unusual. But I would say the best example I could give, it just has to do with what Jim was just talking about, is a missing at-risk child, or increasingly as society ages, at-risk adults, especially one that's in a car. We have an increasing number of those where you have a person that is you know, due to senility, dementia, they're in a car, and that really is a life and death situation. Not only could they crash into somebody, unfortunately, we find many, but unfortunately some. We had one gentleman that drove out into a remote area of the desert in his dementia and died there. And so people are very accepting of missing children, at-risk people, those type of situations. So that would be an example of a red alert. One thing I would caution you on is it needs to be a really, really good reason. If you're doing it, I would stick to after 7 a.m. and before about 10:30 p.m. I tried 11, but that even generated some gripes. So about 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. in your time zone. People don't really mind if you send them a message, but if you do it during the other hours, there better be a good reason. And what somebody might say, what am I going to do at 3 a.m.? Get out of bed and go look for this guy? That they would be forgiving if it was a child. Now, if you have the service where you can use the geo slide and the person's not in a vehicle and it's a wander away type of situation, or it most likely is, the geo slide is where you can refine your search. Instead of being to your entire subscriber group, you could, for example, send it to just a 1 square mile area, 2 square mile area. But that is an added service. I believe that's an additional thing you'd need to pay for to be that specific if you wanted to be able to do that. Whereas on an advisory, you don't have the immediate threat to life, but there is life risk. And that works really well. You pretty much get nearly every benefit you would have got off a red alert anyway. And an example for that would be that someone had just done a robbery or a burglary, and the police are searching that immediate community. Well, you want to alert them that this guy's on the run. You don't even necessarily have to have a subscription, but at least you're explaining to people that the police are searching for a burglary suspect in the such and such 100 block of a neighborhood. Even with no further information, you've now answered the number one question they have, is what's with all the cops in the helicopter?
Yep. And actually, just to piggyback off of what Commander Parker said, the majority of notifications that go out through Nixle are community and advisory, and the red alert really are used very cautiously. Maybe 5 to 10% of our messages are red alert, but the vast majority are community, day-to-day, and advisory, maybe slightly more critical, but not necessarily emergency or that urgent.
Yeah, and I would add too, another thing crossed my mind is that agencies that have kind of an umbrella, in the sense, for example, LA Sheriff is the county, so all of the police departments inside of the county, the sheriff has geographic oversight of all those, in the sense that we're an umbrella entity. We could send a message out to everybody in the entire county, regardless of which agency they subscribe to. So you need to use that privilege wisely and not cause people to get upset that you're abusing it.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Our next question is for you, Jim. Greg in the audience would like to know, is there any limit to the zip codes you can subscribe to?
You can have, I'm in the Philadelphia area, and so I subscribe to a lot of agencies in my area, but I have family all over the country. So I'm subscribed to zip codes in the Dallas area, LA area, Chicago area, Boston area. There's no limit. You can do that all from your phone just by texting multiple zip codes to 888-777. You can do it online if you create a profile, and in that profile you can add as many locations as you want. And at the end, and the same thing goes for keywords. You can opt into as many keywords as you want. Maybe certain cities, I know in the LA area, they have the text notify LA to 888-777 if you're going to various events. And when you want to, if you were to opt out, opting out is as easy as opting in. You just text the word stop to 888-777. And if you're opted into multiple zip codes, multiple keywords, you'll actually get a text message back listing them all and saying, which ones do you want to opt out of? Just one, all of them, respond with the ones. So unlimited number of zip codes and keywords that as a resident you can opt into and follow and just kind of be in the know.
All right, cool. Thanks, Jim. We are running out of time, but I'm going to ask a few more questions, just the interest of the audience. So next question is for you, Mike. So in terms of social posts or recruiting messages, any of that, do you ever use humor to encourage people to share it?
We do, but we use it sparingly. You see news stories and stuff goes viral with humor, but frankly, for every one of the successful ones I've seen about a couple of 100 to 1 on crash and burns. So one of the things about big splashes, they can also result in big crashes. So I would be careful in any kind of humor, especially if you are not the #1 person of the organization. You're going to want to make sure that the #1 person is okay with that humor. Also is, are you really that funny? Because if you talk to 2 or 3 different people who are in the press office, or if you don't have that many people, but talk to people who proceed with caution, you can really be a big hit with humor. But unfortunately, some things are not funny to everybody, and a simple one-word difference can totally change the meaning. So I love humor. It is a huge hit, but it's risky.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Next question is for you, Jim. As far as the mobile app goes, the first one is it available on Android as well as Apple? And is there any quick message type features?
So there's 2 apps. I briefly spoke about the messaging app where as an agency you can push messages out to. That's called EngageBridge. It is available both iOS and Android. So whether you have a Samsung or an iPhone, I would definitely recommend you download that. And the app is great because there's some shortcuts on the app as well. So you can open up all the fields and write, a very full message with photos and everything, or you can do a really one and done, as you just asked, quick message where, hey, I have 140 characters, I need to get this out, I need to send it quickly to everyone. So the app really does speed up your response time, and you can get a message out to thousands of people in under 30 seconds right from the app. There's actually a second app as well that is on the resident side that folks can download to follow all of their locations, follow all of their zip codes, and see any sort of messages on a map too in their area. That is called Contact Bridge. You're going to be hearing more about that in the coming weeks or so, but I just wanted to kind of make a brief mention of that. But if you're an authoring agency who is sending out notifications and you have not downloaded EngageBridge, go to the Google Play Store, go to the Apple Store, type in EngageBridge, and start using it, because it really will speed up your process.
Awesome, thanks, Jim. This is gonna be our final question since we are just about out of time. It's for you, Mike. So what information do you include in social posts that you have during a crisis or during an emergency when you're trying to share information quickly and increase followers?
Well, first you want to answer not what you want to answer, but what they want to know, and give them something to do. And so I would need a little more details, because kind of topic specific? Are we talking about, you know, there was an earthquake? Are we talking about that there's a suspect at large? So that would cause me to answer the question a little bit differently. But the number one thing is speed. Remember, I mentioned about timing, the timing. The sooner you put the information out, the less information you have to give. So if it's only been minutes or 20 minutes from the time it originally happened, you could just say suspect at large in the area, we're searching for a suspect in the area. But the longer you wait, the more detail you have to give. And at a suspect, search for a suspect, what do you want them to do? Well, we want them to stay in your homes and lock your doors. Now that's alarming to hear, but it's a fact. You're telling them what it is you want them to do. And so those are the key things, is timing, get it out quickly, give them super basics. You don't have to tell them a speech, you say, and then tell them what to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg. That is about all the time we have. Any other questions that were not answered, we will have someone follow up with you and answer your questions. With that, I want to say thank you to everyone who attended. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and have a nice day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks. Are we off?